What is love if not one of life's most profound mysteries? And yet how often do we find ourselves caught in its paradoxes, moments of joy tangled with jealousy, control, or the gnawing fear of loss? Have you ever paused to wonder, could there be a way to love without these burdens? Imagine experiencing love in its purest form, unbound, liberating, and deeply fulfilling. Intrigued? The Buddhist philosophy on love and detachment offers precisely such a transformative perspective, reshaping how we connect with others and explore emotional intimacy. At its essence, this philosophy speaks of freedom from clinging, fear, and selfish desires, allowing love to flourish authentically. It's a heartfelt call to approach relationships with openness, compassion, and balance. Anchored in three profound principles: metta, loving cureness; karuna, compassion; and upekkha, equanimity. This wisdom lays a path toward a love that uplifts and liberates, rather than confines and suffocates. If this resonates with you, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to our channel for more insights, and spread the message by sharing this video with friends. Metta, loving without boundaries. Metta, loving without boundaries. Have you ever felt the warmth of a love so unconditional it asks for nothing in return? This is the essence of metta, or loving kindness, a boundless and selfless love that transcends personal gain or attachment. It begins within us, radiating outward to embrace all beings, regardless of their relationship to us. Metta is not confined by the walls of familiarity or the transactional nature of conventional affection. It is a universal embrace that fosters peace and compassion in our hearts and the world. How often do we seek validation from others, believing it will complete us or make us feel whole? Yet metta reminds us that genuine love begins with compassion for ourselves. When we neglect self-love, our relationships often become arenas of insecurity or dependency, weighed down by expectations. Metta offers a transformative perspective. Self-love is not selfish. It is the fertile soil in which all other forms of love grow. Imagine treating yourself with the same kindness and forgiveness you offer a dear friend. This practice of self-compassion builds an unshakable inner foundation. When we are at peace with ourselves, we can extend authentic love to others, untethered by the fear of rejection or the need for validation. What if your love could extend beyond your closest friends and family to include acquaintances, strangers, and even those who have wronged you? This universal love is not merely a lofty ideal, but a practical antidote to the burdens of resentment and animosity. Holding grudges or harboring anger often weighs down the heart, while metta lightens it, creating space for empathy and understanding. Through metta, we begin to see the shared humanity in every person we encounter. The boundaries that separate us from them start to dissolve. Each person, regardless of their actions, becomes a fellow traveler on the path of life, deserving of kindness. This shift in perspective has a profound ripple effect, healing relationships, fostering harmony, and replacing division with unity. One of the most accessible ways to nurture metta is through loving kindness meditation. In this practice, we silently repeat affirmations, starting with ourselves. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering. Once this foundation of self-love is set, we gradually extend these wishes outward to loved ones, acquaintances, strangers, and eventually to those we find challenging. With time and dedication, this practice dissolves the barriers of selfishness, fear, and anger, replacing them with a genuine desire for the well-being of all beings. Metta transforms our relationships by encouraging a love that is free from clinging or demands. Instead of seeking to possess or control, we learn to love freely, joyfully, and generously. This shift reduces misunderstandings and expectations, allowing relationships to thrive in an atmosphere of mutual respect and acceptance. Imagine how your relationships would look if they were rooted in this kind of love. Conflicts would lose their sting, as forgiveness and empathy became second nature. Connections would deepen as each interaction became an opportunity to practice kindness and understanding. Metta is more than a practice, it's a way of being, a commitment to embrace life and all its inhabitants with an open heart. By cultivating loving kindness, we not only transform ourselves, but also contribute to a more compassionate and harmonious world. Are you ready to explore the power of love without boundaries? One quiet evening, a woman named Amara sat cross-legged on the floor of her small apartment, her eyes gently closed. She had recently begun practicing loving-kindness meditation, hoping to find relief from the bitterness that had grown in her heart after a painful betrayal by a close friend. As she repeated the words, "May I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be free from suffering," she felt a warmth begin to stir within her chest, a tiny spark of compassion for herself, a flicker of forgiveness. Over the following weeks, Amara's practice deepened. One day she decided to direct her affirmations toward her estranged friend. "May they be happy, may they be peaceful, may they be free from suffering," she whispered, though the words initially felt heavy on her tongue. With time, however, her resistance softened. She began to remember the kindness her friend had once shown her, the laughter they had shared, and the shared humanity that connected them. Months later, Amara found herself walking through a park when she spotted her friend sitting on a bench. Her heart tensed, but she approached anyway, her steps guided by the love she had cultivated within. The conversation was tentative at first, but as they spoke, the walls between them began to crumble. Amara's practice of metta had allowed her to forgive and approach the situation with an open heart. By the time they parted ways, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. This moment marked the beginning of Amara's journey to live a life rooted in loving kindness. Through metta, she discovered the freedom and joy of loving without boundaries, and in doing so, she inspired others around her to do the same. Karuna, the healing power of compassion. Karuna, the healing power of compassion. What does it mean to truly see another's pain and respond with care, not pity? This is the essence of karuna, or compassion, a love that acknowledges suffering without being consumed by it. It is not merely an emotional response, but a profound way of engaging with the world. Compassion urges us to look beyond the surface, to see the human beneath the pain, and to connect in a way that nurtures healing for both ourselves and others. Compassion is an invitation to witness suffering with an open heart, without rushing to fix or judge. Often we mistakenly equate love with action, believing that solving someone's problems is the only way to show care. Karuna, however, teaches a different lesson. Sometimes the greatest gift we can offer is our presence. To sit with someone in their pain, to listen without interrupting, and to hold space for their emotions is an act of profound love. This does not mean passivity, but a willingness to bear witness with steadiness and understanding. It communicates, "I see you, I hear you, and I am here." Yet compassion requires balance. True karuna respects the emotional autonomy of both the giver and the receiver. It is not about losing oneself in another's suffering or allowing their pain to overwhelm us. Instead, it calls for a kind of detachment, not indifference, but a healthy boundary that enables us to support others without depleting our own emotional reserves. This balance ensures that while we walk alongside someone in their struggles, we do not carry their burdens for them. It is an acknowledgement that we cannot take away another's pain, but we can stand beside them as they navigate their path. When practiced, karuna deepens our connections with others. Compassionate love fosters authenticity and trust, creating a safe space where individuals can express themselves freely and vulnerably. Relationships rooted in compassion become sanctuaries where both parties are uplifted and nourished. Such connections transform love from a duty into a shared source of healing and resilience. Through karuna, love transcends obligation and becomes a force of renewal. It reminds us that caring for others is not about self-erasure but self-expansion. By growing our capacity to hold space for another while maintaining our own center, we cultivate a form of love that nurtures and sustains. There is a story that illustrates the transformative power of karuna. In a small village nestled in the mountains, there lived a woman named Amara. Known for her gentle demeanor, Amara had a unique gift. She could listen to people in a way that made them feel truly seen. Villagers would often come to her with their troubles, drawn by her quiet presence. One day, a young boy named Ravi came to her door. His eyes were red from crying, and he held a broken wooden toy in his hands. "Amara," he said, "my toy is broken. Can you fix it?" Amara knelt down and looked at Ravi's tear-streaked face. Instead of taking the toy from him, she asked, "Tell me about this toy. Why is it special to you?" As Ravi began to speak, his tears slowed. He told her about how his grandfather had carved the toy for him and how it reminded him of the times they spent together. Amara listened without interrupting, her attention fully on the boy. When he finished, she smiled gently. "I cannot fix this toy, Ravi, but I see how much it means to you. Perhaps we can find a way to honor its memory together." Together, they gathered small pieces of wood and created a new toy, not to replace the old one, but to carry its story forward. As they worked, Ravi's sadness gave way to a quiet joy. He left with the new toy in hand, his heart lighter not because his problem had been solved, but because he had been seen and supported. Amara's act of compassion did not fix Ravi's broken toy, but it mended something far deeper. This is the essence of karuna, a love that heals by being present, by honoring another's experience without rushing to change it. It is the kind of connection we all yearn for, one that nurtures, uplifts, and transforms without depleting. Amara's 1,000 True Friends. Lessons learned without depleting. Upakva. Peace in the midst of change. Life flows like a river, constantly changing, never still. In the embrace of its currents, we often seek stability, yearning for anchors in our relationships and routines. Yet, just as the river cannot be held, life's nature is to move, to shift, to transform. How then can we find peace amidst such unceasing change? The answer lies in the quiet strength of upekkha, equanimity. The art of remaining calm and balanced even as life's tides pull us in unexpected directions. Imagine a young woman named Anya standing on the shore of a river that had once been a sanctuary of her childhood. She returned to this place after years, expecting the same landscape, the same soothing whispers of water against stone. But the river had changed. The banks were wider, the currents swifter, and the towering tree she once sat beneath was gone, its roots now submerged beneath the water's edge. Her heart ached with the realization that the familiar scene she had cherished was no more. It was as if the river itself was teaching her an unspoken truth. Nothing remains the same. In that moment of grief, she remembered the teachings of upekkha. The first step was acceptance, acknowledging the impermanence that weaves through every facet of existence. Anya closed her eyes and let herself feel the weight of this truth. The tree was gone, but its memory was alive within her. The river had changed, but its song was still there, though in a different tune. She began to see the beauty in this transformation. Every moment was precious precisely because it could not last forever. Could this awareness free her from the fear of loss? As Anya walked along the river's edge, she reflected on her relationships, which, like the river, had also shifted over time. Some connections had grown distant, others deeper, and a few had vanished altogether. She realized how often she had tried to control these relationships, molding them to fit her expectations, only to face frustration when reality resisted her grip. The lesson of upekkha whispered to her again, "Let go." Letting go of the need to control others was not a surrender, but an act of trust. Trusting that love and connection could flourish organically when given space to breathe. With each step, Anya practiced mindfulness, grounding herself in the present moment. She noticed the coolness of the breeze against her skin, the rhythmic flow of the river, and the warmth of the sun breaking through the clouds. The past, with its regrets, and the future, with its uncertainties, faded into the background. For the first time in a long while, she felt fully alive. She realized that the present was where love, joy, and peace resided. How often had she been too consumed by worry or longing to truly notice these simple yet profound gifts? Equanimity, she discovered, was not about shielding herself from the storms of life. It was about learning to stand firm within them. It gave her the strength to cherish without clinging, to give freely without expectation, and to accept change without resistance. It wasn't a cold detachment, but a warm, grounded presence, a way of loving deeply while remaining steady. As Anya turned back toward the village, she carried with her a profound sense of peace. The river, with its ever-changing flow, had taught her the essence of upekkha, to embrace impermanence, to let go of control, to live mindfully, and to find stability within herself. She realized that life's changes were not something to fear, but opportunities to grow, to love, and to savor each fleeting moment. In the days that followed, Anya shared her reflections with others, not through grand speeches, but in the quiet way she lived. Her calm presence became a source of inspiration, reminding those around her that peace is not found by escaping life's uncertainties, but by embracing them with grace. And so, the lesson of the river flowed onward, carried in the hearts of all who were touched by her story. Redefining love, freedom without attachment. Is it possible to love deeply without becoming attached? Many misunderstand detachment, equating it with coldness or indifference. But in Buddhist philosophy, detachment is not about loving less, it's about loving differently. This idea can seem abstract until you imagine it woven into the fabric of an everyday story. Picture two individuals, Lena and Daniel. They met at a turning point in their lives, both yearning for connection but also carrying scars from past relationships. Lena had once been in a partnership defined by possessiveness, where her individuality was often overshadowed by expectations. Daniel, on the other hand, had spent years trying to meet the impossible standards set by his former partner. When they found each other, they made an unspoken promise. This time, love would be different. Their journey was not without challenges. Lena, accustomed to seeking validation through others, often questioned whether Daniel's calm demeanor was a sign of indifference. Daniel, who had learned to equate attachment with love, sometimes struggled to understand Lena's desire for space. Yet they were determined to redefine what it meant to love. They began by embracing the philosophy that love could exist without chains, a love rooted in freedom and mutual respect rather than control. For Lena, this meant letting go of the need to constantly check if Daniel was thinking of her or prioritizing her every need. She learned to trust that his love was not measured by the number of texts he sent or the gifts he gave, but by the quiet ways he showed up for her, the way he listened intently to her dreams, the way he celebrated her victories without envy. For Daniel, it meant relinquishing the fear that giving Lena space would diminish their bond. He began to see her independence not as a threat but as a strength, something that added richness to their connection. Over time, they discovered that love without attachment wasn't about caring less, it was about caring more freely. Lena found joy in supporting Daniel's growth, not because it benefited her, but because she genuinely wanted to see him thrive. Daniel, in turn, learned to appreciate Lena's uniqueness without trying to mold her into an ideal. They stopped seeking to complete each other and instead celebrated the completeness they already possessed as individuals. Their love became a sanctuary, not a battleground. Arguments, when they arose, were met with curiosity instead of blame. They approached disagreements with the question, how can we understand each other better, rather than who is right? This shift allowed their relationship to flourish without the weight of fear or expectation. As they grew together, Lena and Daniel found a profound sense of inner peace. Detachment didn't mean detaching from each other. It meant detaching from the fears and insecurities that once clouded their connection. Their love became a steady presence in their lives, like a lighthouse guiding them through life's storms, without imposing a rigid path. Years later, reflecting on their journey, Lena described their relationship as a dance. "We move together," she said, "but we don't step on each other's toes. We're not afraid to spin apart because we know we'll find our way back." For Daniel, the transformation lay in the realization that love isn't about possession. Loving Lena taught me that true intimacy is about seeing and accepting someone as they are, not as I wish them to be. Loving without attachment may seem radical in a world that often equates love with ownership, but it is in essence a liberation. It's a love that says, "I see you as you are, and I cherish you for it," rather than, "I love you because you fulfill my needs." It's a love that breathes, that allows both individuals the space to grow and evolve. How might this perspective transform the way you love? Perhaps it begins with a simple shift. Appreciating love as a gift rather than a possession, a journey rather than a destination. And perhaps, like Lena and Daniel, you too can find a love that liberates rather than confines, a love that enriches your soul rather than entangles it. Life finds a way to make use of everything that comes to you as it passes. Practical tools for transforming relationships. Philosophy truly comes alive when it is woven into the fabric of daily life, transforming ordinary moments into opportunities for growth and connection. Imagine a young woman named Lynn, a quiet soul who had always valued her relationships deeply, but found herself struggling with an unspoken distance growing between her and her best friend Min. Their once vibrant conversations had become sporadic and tinged with tension, and Lynn couldn't shake the feeling that something precious was slipping away. Determined to repair their bond, she embarked on a journey of self-discovery and transformation, using practical tools to breathe life back into their friendship. Lynn began her journey with mindfulness meditation. Each morning she carved out 10 minutes to sit in silence, focusing on her breath and observing her thoughts without judgment. Initially, her mind raced with worries and frustrations about Min. Why didn't he understand her? Why did their interactions feel so strained? But as days turned into weeks, Lynn's practice taught her to approach these thoughts with curiosity rather than resistance. She began to see how her own attachment to expectations that Min should always agree with her or prioritize their friendship in the same way she did, was fueling her disappointment. Slowly, she let go of these rigid ideas, creating space for compassion and acceptance to grow. One evening, inspired by her reflections, Lynn started a gratitude journal. She decided to write 3 things she appreciated about Min each night. At first, it was difficult. Her mind seemed fixated on recent disagreements. But as she persisted, the memories of their shared laughter and kindness began to resurface. She recalled how Min had stayed up all night to help her prepare for an important presentation, and how his quirky sense of humor had always been a source of comfort during her toughest days. With each entry, her perspective shifted, and gratitude began to replace resentment. Setting healthy boundaries was a new and daunting concept for Lynn. She had always believed that loving someone meant saying yes to everything they needed, even at the expense of her own well-being. But as she reflected on her growing fatigue and frustration, she realized that boundaries were not barriers, but bridges, tools to protect her energy and maintain the integrity of her relationships. The first time she gently told Min that she couldn't meet up because she needed some time for herself, she worried he would feel hurt. To her surprise, Min responded with understanding, and their friendship grew stronger as they began to respect each other's needs more openly. Compassionate communication became the cornerstone of their renewed connection. Lynn decided to approach their next conversation with a different mindset. Instead of focusing on what Min had done wrong, she shared her feelings openly and vulnerably. "I feel distant lately, and it makes me sad because our friendship means so much to me," she said. Min, touched by her honesty, admitted that he had also been feeling disconnected but hadn't known how to address it. Together, they practiced listening without interrupting, repeating each other's words to ensure they truly understood. What could have been a confrontation turned into a moment of mutual healing and rediscovery. Through these practices, Lin and Min found their way back to each other. Their relationship was no longer bound by unspoken expectations or unaddressed grievances. Instead, it became a living testament to the transformative power of mindfulness, gratitude, boundaries, and open communication. Lin's journey showed her that relationships like gardens require care, patience, and the willingness to nurture both oneself and others. And in that nurturing, she discovered not only the essence of true friendship, but also a deeper connection to her own heart. Embracing impermanence, love as a journey. The Buddhist teaching of impermanence, that all things, including relationships, are transient, can feel daunting. It's a truth that confronts us with the ephemeral nature of life, urging us to acknowledge that nothing lasts forever. Yet, within this seemingly sobering idea lies profound wisdom, the recognition that every moment is precious, precisely because it is fleeting. Anna stood in the doorway of her childhood home, the late afternoon sunlight filtering through the lace curtains. She just helped her mother pack the last box, ready for the move to a smaller apartment now that her father was gone. As they sat together amidst the chaos of cardboard and memories, Anna's mother shared a story Anna had heard 100 times, but now listened to differently. It was about the summer when Anna's parents fell in love, the way they danced barefoot in the rain and spent hours talking about the future. Her mother's voice was steady, but her eyes held a softness that spoke of both joy and sorrow. "We didn't always stay the same," her mother said quietly. "But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? We grew, we changed, and we loved each version of each other along the way." In that moment, Anna understood something she hadn't before. Relationships, like the seasons, are meant to evolve. Instead of fearing change, we can view it as a natural part of love's journey, an opportunity for mutual growth and discovery. Her parents had faced their share of challenges, but they embraced the fluidity of their bond, allowing it to shape them into who they became, individually and together. That evening, as Anna walked through the now empty house, she found herself savoring the present in a way she rarely had. The creak of the wooden stairs, the faint smell of her father's cologne lingering in the air, her mother humming softly in the kitchen. These were moments she wanted to hold on to, not because they would last, but because they wouldn't. By practicing mindfulness, Anna was learning to cherish the here and now, to appreciate her loved ones as they were in this fleeting instant, not as she wished them to be or remembered them from the past. Months later, as Anna navigated the end of a long-term relationship, her mother's words returned to her. The pain of parting felt insurmountable at first, but over time, she began to see the love they had shared not as something lost, but as something that had become a part of her. The laughter, the lessons, even the tears, they had enriched her life, adding depth and texture to her story. Endings, she reminded herself, are transitions, not failures. The relationship's conclusion did not erase its beauty. It simply marked the beginning of a new chapter. Embracing impermanence is not about detachment or indifference. It's about living with open eyes and an open heart. When we stop clinging to the idea of permanence, we free ourselves to love more fully, more authentically. We stop measuring relationships by their duration and start valuing them for the depth of connection they bring in each moment. This mindset transforms impermanence from a source of fear into a wellspring of gratitude. Anna's journey taught her that love is not a destination, but an ever-unfolding experience. It is shaped by growth, presence, and acceptance. As she stood in her new apartment months later, surrounded by her own boxes and memories, she smiled at the thought of her parents dancing in the rain. Life and love, she realized, are not diminished by their transience. On the contrary, it is their fleeting nature that makes them extraordinary. Each moment, no matter how small or brief, is an invitation to deepen our connection, both with others and with ourselves. Conclusion: a love that liberates. The Buddhist philosophy on love and detachment offers a revolutionary way to experience relationships. By practicing metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, and upekkha, equanimity, we open the door to cultivating love that is free from possessiveness, balanced in its expression, and deeply enriching to both ourselves and others. These principles challenge conventional notions of love by shifting the focus from attachment and freedom. Imagine a love that flows as naturally as a river, nourishing all it touches, yet never clinging to the banks. Picture relationships where trust replaces fear, compassion overcomes resentment, and openness dissolves the need for control. This transformative perspective invites us to love without the shackles of attachment, to hold others with tenderness while allowing them the space to grow and flourish on their own terms. Loving without attachment does not mean loving less. In fact, it invites us to love more authentically and selflessly. It is a love that does not seek to possess but to uplift, that does not demand but offers freely. In such a space, love becomes a source of healing not only for our relationships but also for the deeper wounds within ourselves. By embracing this way of being, we align our hearts with the vast, expansive nature of the universe, limitless, boundless, and profoundly liberating. This journey of love without attachment is not without its challenges. It requires courage to let go of ingrained patterns of fear and possessiveness. It demands patience as we learn to replace control with trust, and vulnerability as we open ourselves to the ebb and flow of relationships. Yet, the rewards are extraordinary. A life enriched by genuine connections, a heart unburdened by expectations, and a spirit attuned to the beauty of impermanence. Are you ready to embrace this journey? To step into a love as expansive as the sky, as steady as the earth, and as free as the wind? This invitation to love without attachment is not merely a change in how we relate to others. It is a profound shift in how we experience ourselves and the world around us. The answer might just transform your life in ways you never imagined.